Hello and welcome back to the channel of Gary's Classic Cars Tinkering in the Garage episode 5. So tonight we're going to be looking at the red imp. Now the green one's gone. It's booked in for a rolling road on the 17th of March. And one thing I don't remember doing when I put the carbs on was setting the float levels. So I know what jets I've got in, I've got them written down. So what I want to do tonight is with the tops off the carb, put my teeth back in, with the tops off my carbs, check the float level, so when I do go and see the gentleman I can say that's done, this is done, that's done, and we know where we're at with a good starting base, and then we can hopefully get it set up quicker without him having to recheck everything I've done. So we're going to get set up and we'll take the fuel lines off, the accelerator cable linkage off. That will then allow access to the top of the carburetors. I think it's about 6 screws then. Whiz them off, we pull the top off, and then we have the floats. So we'll get set up over the other side and we'll make a start of doing what we need to do. Okay, so we're all set up. I think I'm set up. I've got my spanner here to do the nut on the banjos for the fuel line. I'll get that off first. Then I've got to take this off here, this accelerator linkage, and there's these screws around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws, and then the lid comes off, so it's not actually as bad as what I thought. So what I'll try and do is get this first banjo off. What I'll do, be safe, I'll disconnect my battery. I've got a little thing on the battery here, a locker, which is, you just unwind it and it isolates the battery, so I've no risk of any sparks or anything, just in case I do decide to work it out and blow myself up. Right, so that's disconnected. So slacken that nut off and then undo. Now I've got to be careful I don't drop the banjo washers down here. So the thing is, I'm not going to take the air filters off because that'll stop me from dropping anything down. Right, so I've got my 2 washers, 2 liquid fibre washers on either side. That's the front one off, and then a bit more awkward this back one to get to in the car. Oh God, Bennett, spanner's a bit long. I end up chopping that spanner in half. Need bit. Oh, I think it from this side. No, that's a bit of a bummer, isn't it? The spanner being so long. Ah, gee whizzles. Trouble is I'm hitting the heater rolls, I'm hitting the air filter. Can't get it. No, I've got it there. Just got it. That was lucky. Wasn't too overly tight. He says. Right, that's it. Oh God, fuel's pouring out of this one. That and the washer. There we go. There's my fuel. There's my fuel line off. I'll just hook that under there so that can hold up there out the way. Right, next one. These 2 screws here that hold this linkage on. So I'll slacken them up, I'll get them out. And this will take half the linkage off, and then I'll have to do the other half when I do the back carb, and then put this back on separately. One out, I have that washer there. 1 screw. I'll get this screw here. Right, so that's that screw. Out with a washer. big long screws these, because they go through the bracket and the... Put that there. Right. I'll move that up out there out the way a minute. Right, so we've got 3 other screws, 1, 2, 3, and then the lid's off. So we'll slacken this one off. I looked on a YouTube channel last night because I thought we were going to have to take the whole carbs off, and I don't need to, but there's 2 different types of floats. There's a plastic float, which is on the, I think, Italian carbs, and there's a metal float, and I honestly can't remember what I've got on here, but it makes a difference to the height you set them at. So we'll find out when we've got it off. Right, so that's that. So these should be okay because they're a new gas, they're a new cap off, they're a new gasket, so they shouldn't be stuck too much. Right, that's my little cover cap. Okay, so now we should be able to just lift the top off. Look, there with the gasket, the metal floats, and there we are. Oh, the carburetor's empty. It must be flooding. So that is all set. Now I believe that should be about 5 to 7 mil. But what they say is when you set these, you can't be touching. If you look just closely there, you can get it with the camera. There's a needle valve inside there, and that's all it shuts. So it's got to be just off it. So I think they are a bit big, them gaps, so I need to close them up, which will fill the float chamber, because the float chamber is quite low there, so it must be leaking in somewhere. I don't know where, but anyway, what we'll do, we'll take the other one off. You can just hear, must be a bit of loose solder in that float, but anyway, we are where we are. I'll do the next one. Now this is a bit awkwarder because it's at the back, so I've got a smaller screwdriver for this one. I'll get the back screw off first. This will be probably more of a challenge putting it back together than taking it apart. And we have pumped it a couple of times, so that's probably why it's low on fuel, because I've been pumping it to get the, not intentionally, but to get the linkage off. Right, I have to go with this blind on this one. My vacuum hose is right in the way. There's a screw there. Everything's in the blooming way. Quite a simple job really though. Taking the tops off, easier when it's not in the car of course, and they're on the bench. So I should have done this stupidly when it was on the bench, because I really don't recall setting these. Well, clearly I haven't, have I? Because they're too high, I think, not too low. Right, so that's that one off. I'm going to take that off because I don't need that. That can come off afterwards. Take the cover cap off. Now, if you remember, oh, I dropped that. I lost. You just no blooming room to. You'd be a blooming contortionist. Right, my cap had to drill some holes in that one, because I lost the thing, yo. So, 3 screws on this now, and then we're off. One. 2, and the last one. Three. Right, so quite an easy little task so far. Make sure we get the gasket stuck. Right, and there's a second one off. We look at that, they look, if we match them up, they don't look a million miles different, do they? Okay, so we adjusted them. So I have this piece of tube here, stainless steel, that's about 7mm OD. Now the guide says between 5 and 8.5 on one, and 7 to 8.5 on another, so 7. So what I've done, if you see that as I bend it down, let me get my angles right. Okay. So as we lift that up, it shuts the valve off. Like that. So what we need to do, we need to set it, and if we put it away, obviously it opens it. So what we need to do is set it so it's just touching. Now what it does say, if you've got to take the gasket off, the float's off to do the gasket, you need to measure it with the gasket on. So what I've done, I've used this as my guide. It just clears the float without the float moving. So for me, I'll hold myself a bit steadier. My hand keeps tapping. That clears us. So we're happy with that. So we're going to put it back together. Okay, so the carbs are all back together. So what I thought I'd do, I'd just whiz the plugs out and see actually what colour they're colouring up to before I restart it, because I want to do the oil and filter on this tonight as well, because it's ready for its service. So number one, it's a lovely colour. So I'm happy with that. Number two, a little bit black. So it's a bit rich on that one. So maybe that jet or that jet needs changing. Number three, lovely colour. A little bit rich, but nothing major. And number four, just nice. So if any, number two is running a little bit rich. So I can let the guy know. Obviously, I would like to think he'll take the plugs out to do a colour check when we do the tune. But might do a bit of Google searching and see what they say about that on Webbers. Or I might speak to Andy Jones, and he might say take it down a jet size. But I wouldn't have thought you'd have done that on then you'd have an equal blooming jet, wouldn't you, for each one? So I don't know. I'll give them a wire brush up, recheck the gaps. I'll put my 35 mil gee whiz. In the pistons, put them at 35 mil, and thou, gee whiz again, and away we go. Okay, so we'll now fire her up. I'll just get the carbs going with fuel on the electric pump. Two pumps. so it's oil and filter time. Now as you will see, it's got the same guard on as the green one from my last video, but you'll probably notice just up there the oil filter, it's a different type. So this is the spin-on type, which you get on your later vehicles. Now I was fortunate when I got this second-hand engine many years ago off Richie Wallace, and remember it had a spin-on filter housing with a take-off for the oil cooler pipes, which is quite rare. There's a few spin-on ones without the take-offs, but to get one with a take-off, they're a bit hard to get by, but people are tapping them out now because they are easier than the canister, because you just screw them on and off, and they're like £2 or £3 as opposed to £6 for the element, and it's just a bit of hassle. So I was fortunate that this one had that on. But anyway, so what we'll do, we'll zoom back out, and I'll get my bucket, I'll get the guard off, and we'll do a time lapse on this one, I think, so we don't bore everybody to death of just dropping the oil out. Okay, so I've got my oil over there, my Fuss Townsend Classic Oils. I've got my replacement filter, spin-on type, brand new. So what we tend to do is put a little bit of oil just around this here, so when it goes on it seals better. So I'll just dip my finger in the old oil, just smear a little bit round the face there, just helps it not stick as tight next time. And then we'll go ahead and screw that on here, which is just that bit there. So now we drain the oil off, screw the new filter on, like so. It says, isn't doing it gammy-handed. Now these are all pretty standard filters on the Imp. There you go, that's it. Screwed on. What you have to do is just nip them up by hand. They've got like a knurled edge on, so you can grip them. Quite easy enough to do. A nip there with your hands. I like to make sure these are tight and they don't drip. Right, there you go, and all done. Give it a wipe, get me greasy hand. Oh, I made more mess putting that, wiping that than. Give it a wipe, get the greasy hand marks off. And jobs are good, and all we've got to do now is put some oil in it, which is where everybody knows where you top it up, in the top of the engine. Okay, so that's it for now. We've done the oil and filter, we've set the carbs, I've topped the water up because it does use a little bit of water. Where it goes I don't know, must have a drip somewhere. Doesn't pressurise, so it's not the egg gasket. So like I said, give it a quick clean up underneath. I've got some more new polish down here. Auto Smart Platinum Polymer Enriched Polish. This is very slightly abrasive. It says a unique wax with polymer blend for a luxurious deep shine. Gently restores tired and faded paintwork. Fast and easy results with low dust. Long lasting weather shield protection. So I have just done the top quarter here, and again, don't know it's because it's got that much blooming polish on, but it's come up absolutely gleaming. So I'm hoping this was like a polish I used to use many years ago when I was in the garage trade, and I had a red Fiesta Mark 1 XR2, and I never washed it. I used to just polish it, and it was a pink coloured compound polish like this platinum, which is white. And it always used to be the shiniest car around Wigan, and if anybody knows me they'll probably wonder, well, that's no surprise, but it does seem to be a very similar smell from what I can remember back 30 years ago, which is quite a distinctive smell. So I'm going to trial it on the red Sunbeam Sport, not tonight, maybe tomorrow. No, probably won't be tomorrow, but I will. I'm going to wax the car a couple of times with it and just see, because with it being slightly abrasive, it brings out any bits of road grit and dust and whatnot off the paintwork. So with a bit of luck, it'll make it nice and shinier and flatter. Anyway, that's it for now. I think it's time to go in. It's 7:30 on a Tuesday night. and we'll catch up shortly on the next part of this video. So hello and welcome back. It's now Saturday. I've had a bit of time out of the garage, been a bit busy with work and life in general, so just thought I'd jump back on to the episode 5. So I've done the carbs, done the oil and filter. Now the problem I've got now, and I've had this for a long time, I put some new door rubber channels in off the Imp Club, which are very, very good, but for some reason it's so difficult to wind the window down and wind it up, particularly on the driver's side. I feel like I'm almost going to break the handle. On here it's just so stiff to just to get it wound down. It's really, really hard. So I'm not sure whether these channels here are too stiff or it's these ones. When I had the old ones in, the window used to move about a bit, but there's no movement whatsoever. So that's my challenge this afternoon when I get back from the car meeting that we're doing this morning, which I'll upload a video on later on. So when I do start it, the first thing I'll have to do is obviously take the door cap off, so that's held in with a screw there and at that end. 2 screws, and that'll lift off. Then I need to take the door panel off. So what I've done with my door panels, as you'll see that I've got threaded screws, because some of these had self tappers in. When you use the door pocket to shut the door, eventually it pulls the metal. Although it's quite thick, over the years it pulls it, and then it comes up like almost like a volcano and pulls the screw out. So what I did, I put a nut rivet in and some M5 stainless steel screws and washers, and it works a treat. They've never come loose. So I'll get that door bin off. Then I've got to take the door handle off. And for anyone who doesn't know about these door handles, you can just see in the top there, I'm going to scroll in, there's a little pin there, and that goes in from below. So you have to knock that out from the top there. So you have to knock it out from below, and then the handle comes off. Same with the window winder. You knock it out just down there, behind the little hole down there. You turn this so it lines up, because this locks, this little plastic is basically a lock. So it should go at say 3 to 9 o'clock, and then to get it out it goes 12 till 6 o'clock, and it's loose. So you knock the pin out, handle comes off, and then the door bin panel can come off. And then we'll get this rubber out. I've got some replacements on my bench up here, what I got this week from East Kent Trims. I've got a set of door seals on both sides. Also treating myself with a new chrome insert for the windscreen and a little joining bit for the bottom. I'm going to take the window out and just check. I think I've got a little bit of corrosion around the window, so that's a little job I need to do. Yeah, and I've cleaned the car up, ready for going to Cars and Coffee in Liverpool tomorrow, and then today in the XR2, which I cleaned up last night. I had half an hour. Going off to Inglenook Classics, which is the first meet of the season, Saturday, the 15th of March 2025. So we're going down there, meeting Andy in his Quantum about 9:15, and the show starts at 9 till 2, so we'll be there for a few hours and then have a bit of a run out. So we'll catch up later when we attempt to try and resolve this window winder issue. I think I'll take the whole mechanism out, make sure it's not stuck, but we'll go through that later on. Okay, so now I've took the old seal out, which is not very old, and I've compared it to the new one, and I think the new one, which I've tried to get in, as you can see, without taking the door panel off, and I've failed, so I'm going to have to stop being lazy and take the door panel off. I think it's slightly thinner, so I'm hoping it's going to allow this to slide a bit better. And then these are the other seals I've got here from East Kent Trims. You can just see that. So I'm going to change the whole lot in this door while I'm at it. Makes sense. So I'll just whiz the door panel off and I'll come back to you. Okay, so now I've got the door panel off. For all those who haven't seen the door handle, you'll see there's Just a little hole there. There's 4 holes actually, and this is the pin. It's like a little, it's almost like a screw, but smooth. You see, and what actually happens, you get your handle, and this pin goes in the hole at the end, slides through to the other side, and locks in, and that holds your door panel. That holds your door handle on. You have to knock them out, and here you notice you've got a little taper on. The camera will zoom in. They only go in one way. So now these doors have 2 channels, so I put some of this sound deadening stuff, as you can see. It's very oily in here where I've been oiling them. So we'll just remove this. With that dangling. So down each side you have, at the end of here, the quarter glass, there's a little bolt which has a slider which goes all the way down. We've got the same on this side. We have a bolt here which holds a channel down that side, and that helps the glass slide up and down when it comes out the bottom of the door. Now on the earlier cars, like on my Singer, they had a stop that went on here and you screwed in, so when the window wound down to the bottom, it sat on the stop to stop it running off the runner. I don't know how they've done the later ones, but slightly different. So what I'm going to do is unbolt this, which will allow me to take this inner channel off, and that will then allow me to slide that rubber down and put it on the window. Okay, so this is the channel, bolts on the bottom, and the little slot on the later cars slides up into the quarter glass. I think on the earlier cars it's all one part. So this rubber just sits in this channel like so, which allows your glass to run in, and when you slam your door, when the window's down, it stops it rattling. The problem is you've got to get that in and the window in. It's a nightmare. It's very difficult, and I'm already black, and I've only just took the blooming this out because I've got that much oil in the door and grease and whatnot. So now the fun begins. I'm going to slide this in here, work out what I need above. So I'll put that at the bottom like so, and then I can roughly work out squeezes in there. They're not the easiest of jobs, these. In fact, they're horrible. I hate them. So we work out that goes there roughly. Got enough left, so I'll have a bit to trim off. So now I've fed that in. I've got to try and feed this back up here through the window, and somehow get it back in, and you can't see. So I'll switch the camera off because there might be some swearing involved, and I'll resume back shortly. Oh, too bad that. Okay, so I'm just going to compare. This is the one I've just taken out. You can see the contour at the end. And this is the new one. So I'm going to put in. Now it's slightly different on the back. There's a bit more of a groove than what is on the original. And when they fold up, it looks a little bit thinner. This is a lot thicker than this one. So I'm hoping when I put this new one in, it will be a bit thinner and will help it slide a bit easier. If that's the case, I'll be doing the same with the other side. Okay, so it is now 15 minutes past 6 and I have done the driver's side door. And I'll just prove to you how easy it is. You saw before I couldn't wind it down with it, so the glass is fully up. So easy. Up, down, up, down. So, obviously, this one I got off Bob, which is a very, very good quality one. And I'm not knocking it at all, because I wouldn't knock Bob, he's brilliant. However, if you do compare the two together, you'll see the bottom one is slightly thinner. You can see that, which makes the gap a little bit easier here, and it allows that to slide down so much easier. I can't believe I've struggled for years, and that's just amazing now. All I've got to do is clean all the WD off the glass, but I'm not bothered about that. I'm very happy that I can wind my window down without breaking my arm, and that's my right hand. Look at that. So easy. Can't believe it. So, after all that hassle, not really hassle, I managed to replace 2 of the seals, so I'm going to throw them ones in the bin because I don't need them, and I'm happy. So, the next job is put everything back together and do the other side. So, I'll crack on with that, and that's really it for this episode 5. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any comments, you want to ask questions on how I did that or a bit more detail, please just send us a comment and I'll respond. Anyway, that's it for now, and we'll see you next time.